So just to catch people up who may not know, a lot of people are not in tune with what's going on in Britain, but we had a problem of people starting to come over in boats a lot more than they used to over the English Channel from France, a safe country, and then claiming asylum in the UK, in which almost all of them were, or at least 50%, I believe, were just liars. We declined their application on the basis that you were a liar, you were safe, and you came over here. And there was a lot of public outrage because the Conservative government, when doing I think over-generous in what they were doing in response to such a number of illegals who were clearly liars.
Putting them up in 4-star hotels doesn't seem necessary.
So let's get this image up. This is thank Nigel Farage for this. I have to give him credit. He went out and did the journalism that no one else was doing, which was to go out and report on the increase in numbers. And then where were they going? Well, they were being sent to nice hotels to be housed as temporary accommodation while your asylum application is being processed. And there's somewhat of an argument for this. You've got to keep them somewhere. But then the question obviously arose, well, why can't we do that for homeless people? Why are these people being given such generous accommodation where in other parts of the world, if you need an asylum place, you set up an asylum camp or something like this, which is not a bad argument. I don't have anything wrong with that.
What's the argument against it?
Yeah, so it was just that, I don't know, we have the money, I guess, but we don't. We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, we don't have the money. What are you
crisis.
talking about? We're in a massive recession.
So the government got very embarrassed about this, and thank you, Nigel, for making them embarrassed. And they decided they would, as we reported on before, they would start opening up army barracks and use them as areas to hold people. So instead of building new camps, we'll just use the army barracks that's not being used.
Because, we've got a load of unused army barracks because our army is shrinking.
Yeah, we keep getting rid of soldiers. Yeah. So if you can get to the BBC, this is Napier Barracks, in which they opened up to asylum applicants, and the first people started arriving. There was much hub about how this would be wonderful for the local community or some such nonsense. And as you can see there, not very many women and children, it turned out. So that's something to keep in mind. And the response was, oh no, the far right are going to be upset that they're here. So the local left-wingers decided to show up for a welcome day at Napier Barracks for these migrants.
Right.
And the couple of quotes from here. So organisers of a welcome event for refugees housed at Napier Barracks say the narrative that the locals are against asylum seekers is a false one. Very happy to have you here. That's really what's going on.
Good for them.
Bridget Chapman was one of the organisers and is a leading member of Kent Refugee Action Network. So they'll become more important.
Well, how many refugees are they taking in? They've got houses that they could take refugees into, don't they?
So my understanding at this point, we have 35,000 current applicants or something like this. It's a big number. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. And that's why this is such a concern if it keeps increasing.
Yeah.
That's the problem for the Conservatives as well. They may end up having to use more hotels because they might run out of barracks at this point.
Build a wall around Dover.
So I wanted to mention what Bridget's been up to, this organiser who was so involved. She set up a Christmas appeal for her Refugee Action Network, £12,000. I'm sure that's lovely for her. And I found this weird because she mentions in here the purpose of raising this money was to help unaccompanied asylum-seeking children.
Are there any?
Doesn't seem to be by the video footage.
Okay, right.
Or at least the number is incredibly low. And she explains,
we haven't x-rayed their teeth yet, I suppose. So we don't know. But
she explains in this long block of text that essentially the housing will be given to asylum seekers until they're 21, at which point they are adults and meant to go find their own housing. This is, as far as I'm aware, factually just false.
Right.
Because we can look at the barracks. The guys in there are older than 21. The guys in the hotels are older than 21. She's just lying to the public to raise money from what I can see in there. But, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. And this is also the kind of people who are encouraging these folks to come. They're the ones saying that no human is illegal, we need to have open borders. And just to remind people, because we did cover it, Bridget is an Antifa person. This is not an random person. If you just scroll up for the context here, this is Teespring saying they weren't going to host Antifa content anymore.
Oh, because
it's, terrorism, and that's a correct stance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And she's upset about this, saying, how can you do this? It's only anti-fascism. You're either fascist or anti-fascist. Which are you, Teespring?
You're either a terrorist or not a terrorist. Which are you, Teespring?
Pathetic.
Teespring sided with the not terrorists as well.
She's an obvious ideologue. And there's one more link here I think we have. So this is her atting BBC World Service, saying it's Antifa, not Antifa, stress on the last syllable. So trying to correct them in the pronunciation. So these are the kind of people who are promoting the migration. They are not average folks who just welcome it like all of the community.
Yeah.
These are the radical leftists who think that
Twitter leftists, yeah.
Well, and off Twitter. I don't just want to contain it to Twitter.
But I think that the reason using Twitter leftist, I think, is a useful thing is because essentially they get their ideology from Twitter.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And they've not just been, whining on Twitter and whatnot. These people go out and raise money, do real things. So one of the things they did is they had a protest down at the barracks to condemn what was going on. So I don't think this is Bridget herself, but it's these kind of groups.
Bloody hell! What are they trying to imply?
So they're throwing blood, for people who don't see, all over the entrance. If you go to the next image,
it looks like something out of The Shining.
Yeah, the message here is that Priti Patel has blood on her hands because she's... What?
Why?
What? Like, what's the problem
because
here?
She's put migrants in a safe location.
Like, I've set up this barracks to hold them. We're holding them in hotels. We're literally letting thousands in. Where, to be honest, the more responsible thing would be to just send them back to France.
Yes,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And for doing this, she's got blood on her hands.
What on earth is wrong with these people?
But I love the idea that also this is the far right. Actually, they're trying to shut down the camp. They don't want them there.
I mean, if you were a migrant and you saw this, you'd be like, "What the hell is wrong with these people? What are they doing? They're throwing blood all over the entrance to the camp.
Yeah,
why?
Weird." But the migrants know what's going on. They're not idiots. They know politics because they've introduced them to it. So if you can get the next one, this is them protesting in congruence with the left-wing forces there who want to shut down this barracks after saying it was such a lovely thing to have in the community.
Yeah.
Notice how that narrative went out the window.
Yeah.
And this chap here is holding a sign that says, the refugee
No, it says the refugee.
His spelling is bad, but I can't talk.
The refugee has right to stay in a home. That's not true. Yes, you don't have a right to a home. Homes are not human rights. Human rights don't require the labour of others. Let me have a quick conversation with you about Locke.
Have you read Locke, Mr. Syrian?
Maybe they should all be forced to. Clearly, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, there's also the point here that the majority, just in case, because I did just say Syrian, which is the majority aren't Syrian. The majority are apparently Iranian, according to the statistics.
Of course, they're not Syrian.
And those that are not Iranian come from as far as Pakistan, Senegal, all over the third world. So
why would you be a refugee from Pakistan? Why wouldn't you just immigrate like every other Pakistani?
Northern Pakistan might be in a state of war. I don't know
why
what the
wouldn't
current
you
situation
just
is.
immigrate like the rest of them?
But then just go to the south of Pakistan, or go to Iran, or Turkey, or Greece, or
just
Serbia.
Get on a bloody plane like the rest of them do. What the hell's wrong?
Any of the countries in between us and Britain on the other side of the planet, perhaps, might be a safe place.
What I mean is you don't need to pretend to be a refugee to get into Britain as a Pakistani. That's just not a requirement.
By the immigration statistics, apparently not.
No.
But this is what they're doing. So they've been radicalizing the locals, and I find it abhorrent. Well, making them do these protests and whatnot to be like, you guys are being so mistreated, and I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. And this is the reason they were protesting, was the conditions of the camp, as they're saying. So if you can get the next one, this is a BBC article.
There's good enough for the soldiers. There's good enough for you.
Yeah. So this is the BBC saying that asylum seeker camp conditions prompt inspection calls. So the idea that they're not giving enough. Well, okay, sure, we'll have an inspection.
Yeah.
And I read through this, and most of the complaints are just army barracks problems. It's
as in they've never been on an army barracks before. But I grew up on an army camps. I know exactly what army barracks are like.
They're not 3-star hotels.
No, they're not. No, but they're meant to.
They're not meant to be.
No, they're meant to be quite austere because you're meant to be going into a war. But austere is the best way, I think, of describing them. Because, I mean, they're not luxury hotels. I mean, if you're used to 4-star hotels, I suppose maybe it's a bit of a downgrade. But if you were expecting to be shot by, like, revolutionaries or whatever in the country you fled from...
Yeah.
Then surely it's a step up.
But it's also a deterrent because people, people crossing the channel are doing so illegally. There is no reason to do so. You are safe in France, and you're risking your life by doing it. So we need to deter these people. And part of that process is saying, right, putting people in hotels just means that they send messages on their phones back saying, hey, look at the hotel. Ain't this nice?
Yeah. So look at the money they've given me as well.
We'll put them in a barracks instead. And then this is fine. This complies with standards, but it's the point of we need to make sure that they don't think they're getting free money out of all this, like they have been or do in Sweden,
like they do in Germany.
Yeah, the absolute memes that come out of the rest of the continent,
insufferable. Yeah,
and the complaints in here that weren't just it's an army barracks, kind of reveal that it's a lot of their own fault. So one of them says that most of the bathrooms are broken. Okay, I wonder how that happened. They are filled with tissues, masks, everything you can find. They are blocked. They don't work.
Yeah, but they weren't being used before you got there.
So who's throwing the masks in?
Yeah.
Like, is that the army officers?
Like, again, I actually know what disused army barracks look like because when we were teenagers, we used to break into them. And
Lock the toilets for fun.
no, they're always left in a clean state, obviously, because the soldiers are instructed to clean them before they leave. I mean, they run down, obviously, after 6 months or a year of not being used. It starts to get a bit run down and mouldy, maybe. But yeah, that's clearly the evidence of human habitation.
The occupants are causing the problem there, and it's
Yes.
like, right, a blocked toilet, just unblock it.
Yeah,
That's not the worst thing in the world.
yeah.
Anyway.
You could clean it.
This isn't the only instance of protest, though. That even though we're in a national lockdown, as in no one is meant to leave their house at the moment unless you're going for exercise, food, or work. If you're permitted to go to work, Allah willing.
Yeah.
That's not stopped the refugee climate activists, because apparently those are the same thing, climate and refugees. So this is another one of these organizations.
Priti
Yes, another
Patel,
protest.
where is your humanity? Are you saying that Indian women aren't human?
Hashtag refugee lives matter.
That's weird.
Of course, all these things are
It's
cross-pollinated.
a weird racist flex from the left.
So the message here for people who can't see is climate activists for refugees, and then they're saying solidarity with the residents of Napier and Penalty Barracks.
Yeah.
So that's them complaining about this. And this is in the middle of a national lockdown, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
This is not permitted. This is criminal activity right now, like it or
Right.
not. I'm not saying it should be. I'm saying that's
No,
what it is.
obviously. We oppose lockdowns, but yeah.
Yeah, and the people who could get in trouble for doing this, so politicians have been doing this from the safety of their homes to not get called out. So this is the Green Party doing
God,
this.
Caroline Lucas.
Napier in solidarity, hashtag stand with Napier from the Green Party.
Can we get people memeing this? Like replace because I love it whenever someone's holding up a piece of paper and with a message on
Yeah,
it.
Nigel Farage had this done to him.
Yeah, exactly. Can we not get this photoshopped?
Yeah.
I mean,
Link
it's
in-
perfect, actually.
Link in the show notes for people who want to get that image. But it's not just the Green Party fanatic weirdos. The Labour Party also doing this.
Of course
They were. So if this is John McDonald, MP, of course.
All right, commie.
Napier in solidarity.
John, I'm a Marxist McDonald. My job is to overthrow capitalism.
I support the call for the closure of this camp. Hashtag stand with Napier. I love how this was welcomed by the community, and now it's got to be closed. Damn it!
Yeah, but he supports like the defunding of the armed forces, the abolition of our nuclear weapons, and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, well, get out.
Well, apparently the migrants were listening to him on Twitter, I suppose, because they've decided to take the closure of the camp into their own hands. So let's play a clip of what transpired over the last few days.
They had a football pitch as well.
People chattering. They set fire to the place.
Thanks.
They set fire to their accommodation. That's what seems to have happened. And you can see here, Care for Calais. So this is another one of these left-wing cancerous organisations promoting what's gone on here. And they say that a fire has broken out.
Oh yes, it's just broken out.
After an upsetting afternoon for residents.
Oh dear.
Okay, that seems like
dear.
Care for Calais is sort of insinuating there that the migrants lit the fire.
I love the way that this is now, after watching this, burn and loot its way across Germany, now it's here.
Yeah.
God damn it.
But I just, keep this in mind, because this will come back up. Care for Calais, fire is broken out after an upsetting afternoon for residents. Seems like they're insinuating that a fire broke out by the residents. I can't labour that point enough. Because the response is Priti Patel came out and said that this was deeply offensive to the taxpayers of this country.
Based.
Yes, because burning down the accommodation we give you for free after you violently break the law of multiple countries trying to get here. Honestly, no one has sympathy with these people in this country.
No. They're adventurers. No. They're not refugees. They're adventurers. And if I were Priti Patel, I would say, well, this is where you're living, so maybe you want to clean it up, and then just make sure there are police around that won't let them just randomly wander off.
Yeah, it's also personally I find this absolutely disgusting because these people not only are just obvious chancers, and that's bad enough, but it means that a genuine asylum seeker coming from a genuinely totalitarian country that will kill them if they return won't get a place.
Yep.
We know people we know of people who have come here and are now being denied on these basis, and in the places they go back to if they have to, it is not possible for them to live. So these chancers who are just in no danger doing it for an adventure, scumbags. I can't stress this enough. Yeah, no. So her statement on this, talking about it.
Yep.
She says here that the Home Office will support police to take robust action against those vandalizing property, threatening staff, and putting lives at risk.
Excellent.
So you can see they overturned those chairs and stuff. That's clearly the mess hall being destroyed, and also the place being set on fire.
Yeah.
And apparently they've been threatening staff as well.
Right, okay. Well,
And-
then, they should have police just be like, no, clean it up.
Good on Priti for saying this.
Yeah.
And the response from the left-wing press was, how dare she? How dare she say this? Priti Patel suggests that the fire in the Kent asylum seekers site was started deliberately. How could
Good.
she say this? Oh, my God. And there's a quote in here. There's, Guardian garbage, but there's a quote in here.
Why do we even need to just suggest it? Maybe we could just outright accuse.
From Claire Mosley, weird last name, founder of Care for Calais, that organisation we just mentioned,
Yeah.
says that for a British Home Secretary to accuse and castigate ordinary people when the facts of this incident are not yet known is shocking and disturbing.
Ordinary people.
But you in your organisation tweeted that the fire had started out after an upsetting evening for the residents. So
What was so upsetting?
what were you insinuating with that tweet, Claire? Sod off. And this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. There's precedent for Priti Patel to say that this is likely the residents doing it, which is that a similar thing happened in Greece a while back. So this is also during COVID, and this is running with the complaints that they're saying it's not COVID safe, which would lead to them setting fire to the place. So this was a big camp that was set fire, 13,000 people there, all destroyed because someone didn't want to stay in the camp. Well, too bad. It's a middle of a pandemic. What did you expect?
Well, I can't help but the camp was called Moria, so have we ruled out a Balrog? I'm just saying Lord of the Rings is becoming remarkably relevant to modern politics. I don't know why.
We have ruled this out.
Oh, have we?
So, and I just want to make
because the refugees weren't doing any mining, right?
No, because they've been charged. So the camp sets on fire. The next one is just left-wing press trying to defend it. The Moria refugee camp for help for asylum seekers dehumanized. So this is sorry, I can't see the thing.
Yeah.
The Moria refugee camp fire was a cry for help for asylum seekers dehumanized by Greece and the EU. They're setting fire to the place because they've been dehumanized. They're the victims here, as they set fire to the property they've been given. So the media backs them up, and then the reality comes out, which is that 4 Afghani migrants have been charged with the fire. So the process is still going on. But they believe that, yes, they set fire to this place. We will charge them with arson. They risked the lives of 13,000 people by setting fire to that place.
Yes.
No sympathy whatsoever.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is criminally negligent arson at best.
Yes.
And I don't think it's negligent. I think it's purposeful.
But more importantly, you've been taken in by a country that owes you nothing out of the kindness of their hearts. And it's not like Greece has just got resources to spare. And your response is to behave badly.
Yeah, and the same thing has happened here. So the left-wing press is backing this up. Not just that one Guardian article, but there's another one, if we can get it up, of them defending what's going on here. The Napier Barracks fire is an indictment of Britain's inhumane asylum policy. Oh,
right,
is it?
we should abolish it.
Oh, is it?
Send them back.
And then they have to concede the facts in this article, which makes the author look pathetic and the Guardian look pathetic. 14 people have been arrested in connection with the fire, which Kent police say that they believe was started deliberately. The police, but same thing. Police believe that they've done this on purpose, but this shows that Britain is bad.
Police are white supremacists?
Crazy.
I mean, we can always expand on this.
Yeah, and the condemning in here from them is also pathetic.
Yeah.
So they're referring to the fact that the complaint is that the camp isn't suitable and we should instead give them hotels. Saying the Home Office itself acknowledges that using the barracks is partially to make sure that asylum seekers don't get too comfortable. The department's own equality impact assessment of the scheme states that less generous support is justified by the need to control immigration.
Correct.
And that better conditions would undermine public confidence in the asylum system.
Correct.
What's wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with
Totally
that.
accurate, totally moral, totally fair.
Yeah, and they mention here that currently as many as 9,500 asylum seekers are living in temporary hotel accommodation at great expense to the taxpayer.
Yes.
And there's one more part in here which I thought was just amazing that they left this in. I don't know how. And the author says, in reference to all this going on, that last year a series of deaths in Glasgow prompted calls for a public inquiry. Series of deaths in Glasgow in response to housing.
I mean, there are lots of potential reasons that could have happened.
Migrants are being housed in Glasgow in hotels, and there was a series of deaths. I wonder how that happened. So this is The Guardian reporting how that happened. If we can get the next one up. From Sudan to the Park Inn, the tragic story of a migrant's killing. So a migrant died, is what you're
It
getting
sounds
at.
like, yeah.
Tragic series of
a
deaths.
migrant was killed, yeah.
Migrants must have been killed, presumably by the far right. We keep being told that they're the ones threatening these folks.
Yeah.
And then you read just the first paragraph, which reveals that, no, these people are just outright lying to you.
Oh, look at this. On the last Friday of June, about midday, Badreddin Abdallah, Adam, left his room at the Park Inn Hotel in Glasgow, walked down to reception, and stabbed 6 people. Why are you trying to make it like he's the victim of this?
The 28-year-old, an asylum seeker from Sudan, who had been placed in the hotel as part of the UK government's emergency system response to the coronavirus pandemic, stabbed and severely injured 3 other residents, 3 other asylum seekers, 2 members of staff, and a policeman.
Christ.
He was then shot dead by the police. The police shot dead the man who was stabbing people to death, and the Guardian's like, the tragic story of this man. His death is tragic.
Amazing.
A series of deaths took place in Glasgow.